I do wish that we'd had a hearing sooner. It's been 182 days since our committee has held any hearing, and 869 days, I hate to say, since the Democratic Senate has adopted a budget. Majority Leader Reid said it would be foolish to adopt a budget not too long ago. The fact that our nation continues to operate without a budget, I think, does lie at the heart of one of the problems of our economic situation. America desperately needs the confidence and predictability that only a concrete fiscal plan can provide. The budget process, I don't think, is broken. It's been abandoned. And I think President Obama must share responsibility for our failure. He consistently has refused to put forward a serious long-term fiscal plan on paper that can withstand scrutiny. Since taking office, the debt has surged nearly $5 trillion. During that time, unemployment has remained above 8% every single month. Growth has now stagnated. We are very concerned about the economy at this state, and some are saying we have a 30 to even 50% chance of a double-dip recession, and we certainly hope that does not occur. So now, in the grips of crisis, we're told the President has a new plan to revive the economy. We received a proposal on Monday with no fiscal details that just offers more of the same. It calls for a sudden increase in the deficit, $450 billion, with a promise to pay for it at some later date through higher tax increases. In other words, more spending, more taxing, more borrowing, more debt. President Obama still doesn't get it. I am convinced, and this is my personal view, that the debt is already destroying jobs right now, that the debt itself could be part of why we're missing the projections of growth that so many have made. And increasing the debt only digs us into a deeper hole, harder to get out. We may have raised our legal debt limit recently, but we perhaps have breached our economic spending limit. America's $14.5 trillion gross debt is now 100% of GDP. A prominent study from the economists Rogoff and Reinhardt that you noted, praised by Secretary Geithner as an excellent study, shows that when a nation's gross debt reaches 90% of GDP, it loses on average a percentage point or more in economic growth each year. So it would appear to me that, in my personal view, that the debt itself may be depressing growth right now. And this might be one of the explanations for the disappointing performance in recent weeks. Keynesian elites in Washington continue to insist what common sense denies. They tell us that even more spending and more borrowing is the answer. But when you've reached 100% of GDP, to try this failed experiment yet again is to put us at risk. We definitely need to be careful about this prospect. We've seen where this road leads. I'm afraid it leads to Greece. It leads to certain economic crises, as the Fiscal Commission Chairman Bowles and Simpson told us in this committee room. We're heading to the most predictable economic crisis the nation has ever faced. Why? Debt. They were talking about our debt. Why should we continue to trust the, affectionately, I call masters of the universe, maybe you three are part of that group, who tell us that we can spend and borrow our way to prosperity? Why don't we borrow twice as much? They've been wrong, it looks like, from the beginning. In 2009, the administration claimed that the stimulus would prevent unemployment from rising above 8%. Mr. Chairman, I think you were warned that that may not be accurate, but that's what we were told by the official government of the United States, the President and his team. After the bill became law, however, unemployment rose to 10% and remains at 9.1 today, a disappointing number by all accounts. One of our witnesses today, Dr. Zandi, a very able witness, in his testimony before the committee about a year ago, said the next 6 to 12 months will be uncomfortable as the economy struggles to gain traction, but a full-fledged expansion should take hold by this time next year. So it's now this time next year. That was last September, I believe, when you made that comment. In January of this year, CBO projected economic growth for 2011. In January of this year, our CBO said growth would be 3.1% for the year. In February, OMB, the President's Office of Management and Budget, predicted growth would be 3.1%. Yet the economy experienced just 0.4% growth in the first quarter, followed by only 1% growth in the second quarter. Indeed, Dr. Zandi, who's been one of the most prominent of spending and borrowing stimulus advocates in the economy as a way to boost the economy, and who has been a close advisor to the Democratic Senate majority, has seen his projections prove to be dramatically inaccurate. His Moody's Analytics in January of this year, Moody's Analytics predicted we would have an astonishing 3.9% growth this year, but have this month had to drastically lower that estimate to 1.6%. So forgive me if these grim numbers do not give me confidence that the newly proposed stimulus plan will produce the results promised. More spending, more borrowing, more taxing, I'm afraid, is not the way forward. We need policies that improve conditions for job creation, that do not add to the debt. We must produce more American energy, taking advantage of our vast untapped energy reserves. Energy policy isn't simply a matter of national security. It's a matter of economic security and growth. If the government would simply permit access to our own natural resources, we could have the kind of growth they have in North Dakota, which is helped by energy production. It would lead to the creation of millions of jobs and billions of dollars in federal revenues and reduce the transfer of wealth that occurs when we purchase 60% of our oil from abroad. We should also agree to immediately eliminate all regulations that have no real benefit but impose economic cost. There are thousands of these. Unfortunately, the administration has been going in the opposite direction. For example, in fiscal year 2010, the administration issued 66 major rules, 74% higher than the average number under Presidents Clinton and Bush. Permanent structural reform of the tax code is another area that could spur economic growth without adding to the debt. Such reform will provide the economic certainty and predictability that is needed. But the goal of tax reform must be to increase opportunity for American workers and businesses, not bail out Washington's big spenders by hammering the American taxpayer. In time of crisis, confusion, and fear, we should return to basic core principles. The tried and true: pay your debts, spend within your means, live according to a budget, remove the barriers of an ineffective bureaucracy, allow the private sector to flourish. If we take these steps, if we rely on the good sense and wisdom of the American people, we will see resurgence in growth, jobs, and opportunity. There is no quick fix, no gimmick that will get us there. The road ahead is not easy, but through diligence, hard work, less welfare, more productivity, and common sense, we can put this country on a sound, prosperous path to a better future for Americans today and our children tomorrow. I know that these reflect my views, but, you know, we're just here, one of 100, aren't we, Senator Conrad? And we do our best, and I respect your views and look forward to the discussion we'll have.